Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our friends who are taking the time to join us to learn about how to prospect, engage, and sell using social media. I'd like to first off thank everybody for taking the time. Second, I want to encourage you all to ask questions. That's what the question and answer box area is. And I'd also like to say I'm super excited to be here with my dear friend Tim Hughes. Tim, can you go to there we go. Tim, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Really excited.
Tim, what I love about you is that you are kind of an old school sales guy that used to carry a briefcase, I'll dare say,
Yep.
and you embraced social media. I think you were even working at Oracle at the time. You embraced social media so deeply and so widely and built such a great brand and following that I was just really impressed by your your nimbleness, dare I say. And I love that we connected on Twitter and moved that to LinkedIn and moved that to email and calendar, and eventually to a face-to-face meeting where we were able to share an intimate dinner in London during one of my visits there. Now you've moved on to have your own agency where you're teaching others at scale about how to grow better, smarter, faster. In fact, you've written a number of books, right? This is you have more than one book, don't you?
I do. Yeah, this is the social selling book.
Yep.
It's available on Amazon worldwide, but we will be talking about that later on as well.
So please connect with Tim. He's amazing. Get his book. It is a really fantastic way to learn about social selling, and that's why we invited you, Tim, to help us here today. Let's go to the next slide. For those that don't know me, I've been in relationships business all my life. I learned it on my dad's car lot. I swore to myself I'd never be in sales. I wanted to be an astronaut. So I studied computer science and then I found myself back in sales and I couldn't find a good sales tool. So I built it before Outlook or Salesforce existed. And it turned out to be a gold mine for me, enabled me to be a dad for 10 years at home when I was 40, which is amazingly precious. And I got back in the business because I saw that social media was going to change the way we work, play, buy, and sell in 2007, 8, and 9, and that turned out to be nimble. And let's go to the next slide. If you want to learn more about some of the teachings that we do a number of webinars with amazing people like Tim Hughes. We also have people like Michaela who is managing this webinar in the background. She gives amazing webinars on how to be nimble, how to use nimble, and definitely you want to sign up for those webinars. And with that, Tim, take us away. Tell us what we're going to learn today.
Okay, thanks, John. I really appreciate that, and for Michaela for doing the poll. We've got an agenda, which is where we're going to look at different social media platforms for business. I'm going to talk about a simple way of starting a conversation on LinkedIn. There are many ways that you can do that, but I'm just going to talk through one. We're going to talk about how I use Nimble in conjunction with when I'm social selling. We're going to talk a little bit about Twitter, and I'm going to go through and give you some advice. There's a number of takeaways from here. So if you haven't got a pen and paper, then I should go and get one, because there's a number of things that you need to write down. So before we get into that, I think we need to take a step back and actually look at the business case for social selling. I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. I think some people think it's about posting on social or things like that, and it's not. Social selling is a strategic way that salespeople can get leads and meetings, can track sales through the pipeline, and can actually use it to close deals. Now, I'm not saying that you do it all on social. Obviously, you need to talk to people, and obviously you can pick up the phone, and obviously you can have meetings, even though you would probably have those through Zoom or Teams or GoToMeeting or something like that. But this is a way that you can actually get leads and meetings. Now, what we generally say to people is that from a very conservative estimate, if you're doing social selling right, now I'm not going to tell you everything today about social selling. I can't do that. I haven't got enough time. But if you're doing social selling right, you should be able to get at least one meeting per week using social selling. Now, when we do it here at DLA Ignite, we can probably get 8 or 9 meetings. But the fact of the matter is, if you're just starting out, you should be able to get 1 meeting a week. Now, let's assume that turns into 1 meeting a week can turn into 1 forecast opportunity per month, and that you can close 1 deal a quarter. Again, this is a very conservative estimate. You know, it all depends on your close rate. It all depends on your ability your ability, how many you win. But on the average deal size of a $50,000, that should be equating to an additional $200,000 of revenue per annum per person. Obviously, if you have a bigger average deal size, then you would be able to close more. But that's the sort of business case that we would expect, and certainly you should be able to be selling through social in a way that enables you to be generating more business for your company. Now, some background is the world has changed, and it's changed even more as with COVID-19. Now, the research I'm going to show you here from Gartner is before COVID-19, and I think that some of this may have changed, but what Gartner say is that the average person, when they're going out and buying, they will actually be 57% of the way through the buying process before they actually contact a salesperson. Now, it doesn't really matter whether it's 30%, 57%, or 80%. The fact of the matter is that we're all empowered with a mobile phone. We all have access to the internet. We all have access to an infinite amount of content, and I can look stuff up, and so can your customers and prospects. And if you're not on social and you're not actively engaged in having conversations on social, you're leaving money on the table. I wrote an article 6 years ago, pretty much to the date, of a friend of mine who was getting 10 C-level meetings a week through Twitter. Now, that was 6 years ago. Now, you have the ability and you have the tools, and I'm going to go through some of that with you today. The other thing that's happened is that the buying process has changed. So now there are more people as part of the decision-making process. It's not just about going to Steve in IT and actually getting the deal done. There's now finance will be involved. There'll probably be a business case. There'll be the user department. There'll be people, maybe other people in IT that you need to talk to. Depends obviously what you sell. But the fact of the matter is, it goes back to even old school, which is there'll be people sitting probably now on a Zoom call rather than around a table. They will be making a decision, and but there'll be a vote. And what you need is to be in a situation where everybody is putting their hand up for your product. Now, the way that you do that is the fact that you've made relationships and you found people on social and you built relationships with them, because they will be the people who love you, who like you, who then will actually buy from you. Now, the fact, if we don't know who those 10 people are, we need to be connecting to multiple people within the organization and engaging with them, having conversations with them. So there are 3 key things that you need around social selling, and these are as follows. The first thing you need is you need to have your profile, your shop window. And I'm going to talk about this in a moment, just to give you some very, very simple tips. Now, if you think about walking in a mall and you looking in shop windows, if there's something that interests you, you'll stop and you'll look in. And this is about creating curiosity for your prospects, your customers, and for them to stop and read your profile. If they're reading your profile, they're not reading your competitor's profile. The next thing you need is a network. And it is true that the power is in your network, and you need to connect with people. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Now, most people's networks are currently old ex-colleagues and recruitment consultants. While that's interesting, what you need to do is that you need to move your network from analog. So next to my desk, I have a pile of business cards, and what we need to do is take those business cards and in effect put them into the digital world. The third thing you need is content, and you need to engage, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So here are some very, very simple tips that you can do on your LinkedIn profile. You can walk away from this webinar and you can make the changes. So this is my LinkedIn profile. I have a photo that if you happen to meet me one day, you can see what I look like. I have a background photo. You can have a company one. It could be a sunset or something like that. But remember, this is your profile. This is not a company's profile. The next thing you have is your summary title. This summary title is the most visible piece about you on the internet. If you Google yourself, don't do it now. If you Google yourself, what you'll find is, because Google loves LinkedIn because it's full of content, what you'll have when you find you is your picture, your name, and that title. Now, the mistake that everybody makes is that they put their job title, sales manager. I'm not interested. I know that there's a 25-year-old I know in a company out there that's put passionate about digital transformation. Now, that's what he does, not why he does it. Now, I don't believe a 25-year-old is passionate about digital transformation. I wasn't at 25. I was passionate about more other things in life. And what we're looking for, if you want to create a connection with somebody, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. Now, I've happened to have put that title there. I get so much engagement. I've closed business off the back of that title because people have said, I've seen you make a comment on LinkedIn. I've seen you got that title. I had to come and look at your profile. I then had, and I actually have a spelling mistake, deliberate spelling mistake, right at the bottom of my profile. And I have people coming to me and say, you've spelled experience wrong. And I know that they've completely read my profile. And that's what we're looking to get people to do, to get people to actually see you and build a relationship with you. The next thing you do is, this is about your summary at the top of LinkedIn. Again, this is not about your company. This is not about your product. If you write that, I know that you're going to come and pitch to me, and I'm not interested in being pitched to. What I'm looking for is your why. Why is it that you do something? Why is it that you do this? Exactly the same format as what Simon Sinek says in his book, that, you know, the importance of why. This is what I want to do, is I want to understand your belief system, and I want to understand the why that you're actually doing this. And the third thing that you can do is to make sure that your contact details are set up on LinkedIn. Again, these are just very, very small, simple things you can do. The contact details are important. It's something that most people miss on it. Think of it as your business card. On your business card, you'll have your email address, you'll have your mail address, you'll have your telephone number, and you do all those things because you want to be in a situation where it doesn't matter. You know, if $1 million deal comes along and they want to write you a letter, you want to make sure that you've given them your address so they can write that letter to you. So those are the things that you can go away from here. 3 things that you need to can go away from here, and you can do today. The next thing you need to do is have a network. Now, unfortunately, you can't do these LinkedIn maps, but I wanted to give a graphical view of what a network looks like. Now, this isn't contacts. This isn't saying I can connect with 2,000 people on LinkedIn. It's about building relationships with people and having conversations. Now, if I stand up and say I'm the best social seller in the world, all you'll think is that I'm an arrogant, self-promoting person. If John says that, and John is someone who you admire, respect, and love, then you'll actually believe it. Just the same as in the old days when we used to travel and we used to book hotels, we would go to TripAdvisor and we would look at reviews that people had left. Now, those people are strangers, but we still trust in what those people have said, and we booked hotels based on what they said.
Tim, can I interject here?
Yes.
So first off, love the webinar so far. Second, please ask questions in the background. We learn from questions. And third, in regards to this slide, I like to say it's more powerful when other people talk about you than when you talk about you.
Yes.
So don't talk about yourself or your business. Talk about how you can help other people become better, smarter, faster, because people buy a better version of themselves. They don't buy great products.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll we'll pick up on that as we move through. There's also about creating content. And this is something that I often find with salespeople that they find difficult, even though we're the world's best communicators. You know, we stand up in front and present our solutions. We write emails which are action-based to get people to do things. We write proposals where we'll write management summaries, which is again action-based. We feel that we don't have the ability to write content. Now, when I was at school and I left school, I was told never to do anything where you had to write something down. And I've ended up writing 2 books, so anybody can do this. Now, you can curate and find content, and I use a product called Flipboard. It's a free app. You can download it to your phone, and it allows you to search on content which would be you would find, or your customer would find interesting for them to use. There's lots of other products, but I happen to use Flipboard. It allows you to search on certain things. So, for example, I have different magazines that I've set up: Marketing Strategy, Vinyl Records, Thought Leadership, Chief Data Officer. And what the product does, it looks for, say, for example, the string of Thought Leadership and finds that in articles and then presents them to you. And I've found many interesting special edition vinyl record from that particular magazine that I follow. You can also set up your own magazines, or you can search on anything, you know, big data, the future of work, whatever it is that you sell or the area that you're working in, and then share that out. The important thing about content is that your customer is looking for an expert. They're looking for somebody that they can trust. They're looking for somebody that they're going to build a relationship. They're not looking for somebody that's going to try and sell them something they don't want. So content is a great way for you to demonstrate your expertise in your area. Now, I'm going to now talk about how people are actually creating content for themselves. So, for example, Duncan Kay. So Duncan's actually given his permission to share this. Duncan works for Telstra, one of our clients. As you can see, he's changed his title, Simplifying IT Professional Service, Northern at heart, ex-Arden in London for 18 years. Again, he's somebody that gets a lot of profile readings and inbound from that. Now, this is just an article that he wrote about being a dad in lockdown here in the UK, and he's had 119 likes and 62 comments. Now, let's just be a little bit conservative and let's assume that people have liked, the same people have liked and the same people have commented. So let's just take the 119 figure. Now, the average person in LinkedIn has 500 contacts. So that means that by 119 likes, that article could have been seen by 59,500 people. So you're able to take yourself, your belief systems, and what you sell, your company, and actually present that in front of your network and your network's network. So if you think about each of those 59,500 people are connected to 500 people as well, then what you're doing is that you're able to dissipate that what you're saying and what you're and your position and moving that out through your network. Now, don't forget, your network already know you and love you, but one of the things you need to be doing is also thinking about how you sell through your network. And that's about getting people who know you and love you to take your content and also put it out through their network as well. Now, another example, Steve Rafferty, will be also coming to him in a moment. Steve is the sales leader at Ring Central here in the UK. Again, he's given me permission to use his details. This blog here has been seen by 71 people, and again, 71 times 500, so 35,500 people could have seen that. Now, I would argue that actually, so we don't have as a social organization, we don't have a email list. And the reason why we don't have an email list, apart from the GDPR laws here in Europe, because we're actually able to take our content and actually disseminate that through our networks quicker and faster and more efficient. And because our networks are based on permission, not interruption, people are interested in seeing our content. Whereas with interruption, the likelihood of actually people opening up emails is very small. One final piece on Steve's blog. Steve actually did a recruitment blog, and he had 40 people respond to that, and he saved over $500,000, so $500,000 on saving on recruitment fees. So that just gives you some examples of different types of content coming from different people and how you can use that yourself to drive sales across your territory. Exactly the same attitude and view on Twitter. I wasn't going to talk about this a lot. You can use the same terminology that you used on LinkedIn, the same background, the same photo, and I would recommend that you use those things as well, so there's some commonality. Again, you're using the same details that you've used in your summary title on LinkedIn. So company versus personal, we get this a lot. Now, here is a company, most people have heard of Nike, probably one of the biggest brands in the world. But if they stand up and say, we have the best sneaker in the world, what do you think? We say, well, of course you'd have the best sneaker in the world, and of course you'd say that because you're the brand. So what they have to do, and they're one of the biggest brands in the world, is they have to get people to advertise for them. And they still use Michael Jordan, though he hasn't played basketball since 2003. And the reason is that people have an affiliation with people. So when you're using your social media, it shouldn't all be about the company. It shouldn't all be about what the company is and what the company's saying, because every company says they're the best. Every company says they're the market leader. Every company says that they're in the top quadrant in Gartner. But what we're doing is that not everybody has Michael Jordan. Not everybody has Michaela. Not everybody has John. And companies' unique selling points today is their people, and even more so within the COVID-19 world. So here's a quick way of creating a conversation. There are many, many ways of doing it, but it's just something that we've been showing people recently, and I wanted to share that with you today. So go to your LinkedIn profile, click on my network, and then click on your connections. And then what you can do is that you can scroll back and scroll back through a reasonable amount of time, 6 months, a year, or whatever. Here we find Angela, and send her a message. Generic, non-threatening, not pitching your product, just asking for a chat. Hi Angela, we've been connected for quite some time. I'd like to have a chat. Not pitching anything, but I'd like to hear what you're up to. Now, in most cases, people will come back, and as long as you do it in this non-threatening, non-selling way, what have people got to lose, especially if people that have got time at home? And as we said earlier on, I actually said to John, it's a great time to connect with old friends, and it is. Now, when you run this call, and I need to say this, you don't turn up to the call and say, hey, have I got a great product for you and we've got 30% off. What you do is you say to Angela, okay, what are you up to? And she say, well, you're a LinkedIn influencer. Tell us about that. Tell us what you do when you're a board advisor. One of the great things that we are good at as a salesperson is asking questions, being curious about someone, actually being interested in what they do. And then after about 15 minutes, what they'll actually say to you is say, okay, Tim, what do you do? And then you actually have an opportunity to tell them what you do. You can call that a pitch, but it's a way that you have created a conversation and in a non-threatening way have been able to have talked about what you do. Now, we've presented this on a number of webinars, and the feedback that we've had has always been very positive. People have all said that they've been able to do this and have got meetings off the back of it. It's one way of doing it, and maybe you could try it yourself. Now, here's the script. Very straightforward. Obviously, if your name isn't Adam, don't put your name as Adam down there. But something that you can take away and maybe start using after today. Now, talking on social is no different from talking that you would do at a networking group. Don't be stilted. Just have a conversation with you. It is, after all, social media. It's about being social. Join conversations. Find your prospects and customers that are active on social, and just have a conversation with them. Read their content and comment on it positively, of course. Steve Rafferty at Ring Central, he was targeting one organization, and he went through and had conversations with 203 people until he found somebody that actually would have a conversation back with him. He then had a meeting off the back of it. So, like always within sales, this isn't about finding the first person that you come across on social, finding the person doesn't engage and then giving up. You have to go on. If there's a particular organization that you want to sell to, as always within sales, there will be multiple touch points within that organization that you can get conversations with. And it may not be directly with the person that you need to sell to. You may be talking to other people who will get there for you. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of some of the simple things about how we can use social selling, some things that you can take away. The way that I work with Nimble when I'm social selling is that I tend to be in two different places. I'm either in LinkedIn, and then I'm also able to be within Nimble, or what I'm doing is I'm actually in Nimble myself. So this is a great example of, here I'm in LinkedIn. As I say, Steve Rafferty's given me his details and said I could actually use this. And then what I'm able to do is, by using the browser plugin, I'm actually able to take the details from LinkedIn and actually put that directly into Nimble. I'm able to add notes. For example, when you're first starting a sale, you may not have any email. It may be just a case of, I've spoken to Steve. He said, you know, we've got a real problem with discretionary spend right now. Give me a call back in June. It may be that you then want to log an activity. So what you'll do is you actually log the fact that you're going to give Steve a contact back in June. You can schedule stuff. I, as a leader, can actually assign this to other people. So I'm able to actually get them to pick up the deal themselves. The same thing goes for Twitter. Again, what you're able to do is look at Twitter and then work out, do I need to add any notes about Julie, schedule my time, log any activity, etc., etc. So you're not having to switch between Nimble and Twitter. You're able to actually do the two things at the same time. John.
Yes. Pass me the screen, Michaela. First off, I love how succinctly that you are able to share the information with us, Tim, because I think that a lot of people are a little bit scared of using social media to engage, and they maybe are old school. They're used to doing it the old-fashioned way. And I think that you make it so digestible. That's why I loved your I love the way that you engage, and I love the book, and I love hearing this background. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to just cover some of the sort of basic concepts that you talked about earlier. First off, can everybody see my screen? Yes, I see it on
Yes.
the webinar thing. So, so I think that the main thing that you started to talk about was setting up your shop, right? And one of the things that you set up your shop about is because people are going to Google you. And this was actually one of the questions that somebody in the audience had was, you know, what should we do to show up on that first page? And if you look at my Google, you'll see you Google my name, and it's you know, I'm doing pretty good, but I do have a unique name, John Ferrara, although Ferrara is like Smith in Italian. But I do show up, and if you look at some of the things that I do, Google rewards you with a Wikipedia site. So if you haven't created a Wikipedia site for yourself, do it, because you can. You just need to do it properly and cite, you know, articles and things. Have you done that for yourself, Tim?
I haven't. I'm just making a note of it.
Good. And because if you look at this, I get rewarded really big here. I get my picture, and I get all kinds of good stuff in there. Google's telling you where I went to school, all kinds of good stuff. And, you know, in the old days, I used to teach people, when you go in somebody's office, look at their walls, look at the books they read, the degree of the school they went to, the knickknacks they collect. And you do that in order to figure out what you might have in common with that person. And then you use those commonalities to break the ice and develop intimacy and trust. Because without intimacy and trust, people aren't going to open up to you about their business issues. And I really believe that if you want to create a deep relationship that moves beyond a transactional relationship, a business relationship, that you need to move beyond, say, LinkedIn, and move into places like Facebook and Instagram. And I call that the 5 F's of life: family, friend, food, fun, and fellowships. This is where deep personal relationships are created. Today, on this webinar, Bryn Tillman, who is also another amazing teacher of social selling processes, etc. When I went to Philadelphia, I took the time to have breakfast with her, and she brought her boys, and we built a connection through that conversation that that I think that will outlast anything else I do in regards to the business aspects. So take those relationships and move them forward. So, like Timothy said, set up your shop, and your shop isn't just LinkedIn. Your shop should include other places as well. And if you look here, when I say family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship, you can see that my Instagram is filled with family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. You can see that I like to cook. You might connect with me because you share one of these commonalities, and we could talk about those different things. And then, by the way, if you like to cook, I like to cook, so we could talk about that. I like cars, and I love my wife. She teaches me something amazing every day. And so once you've set up your shop, then what you want to do is, like Tim said, share content on a daily basis. And this is like a fishing lure that goes out into the social river that enables you to create connections that turn into conversations that ideally turn into what I call mutually beneficial relationships. Because you're not on this planet to make a lot of money. Look, I've made a lot of money, and money isn't it. We're really here on this planet to make memories out of moments. And those memories out of moments create opportunity in life. And your main opportunity in life, I believe, is to grow your soul. Now, I'm sorry to get a little spiritual with you, but they're not going to write on your grave, made $100 million. They're going to say, beloved father, friend, husband, wife, etc., parent. And so I believe that if you change your aspect of why are you connecting to other human beings, from trying to make as much money off them to trying to help them grow as best possible, then you can't help but be successful in life. And ultimately, I simplify it down to this basic formula: is that we're on this planet to grow our souls, and we do that best by helping others grow theirs. But you could translate that into, you're on this planet to help other people grow, and you can get anything you want by doing so, which is essentially the mantra that Zig Ziglar, one of the greats, taught. And so when I share content on a regular basis, it creates these engagements, these notifications. And then what happens is I could take those engagements and turn this connection, this conversation, into a relationship. And so you can see, Debbie, sorry for pulling you up like that. But by the way, Debbie, we're always in the need of better copy. And also PR. So feel free to reach out. We can talk about some things that we might be able to do together. So without lifting a finger, I created a record for Debbie. So what I'm doing is I'm reeling in the relationships. And we're reeling in the years, throwing away the time. All right, what band is that? So basically, now I know a little bit about Debbie. I can add her as a contact into Nimble. And most importantly, there should be some follow-up and follow-through. And so what I might want to do is create a task for myself. And I'm having a little bit of bandwidth issues here at my remote treehouse. I don't know if you guys can hear the birds here. But essentially, I would then create a task to do a next step. Because if you don't have a task created for a contact, then it's a meaningless contact that you created. It's the basics that wins games. It's the follow-up and follow-through. And that's where we fail as human beings, because typically what I would have to do is copy Debbie's information and go paste it into my CRM, and then basically go and log what I did or what I need to do. But the reality is that your CRM should automatically work for you by building itself and then work with you everywhere you work. Because ultimately, if you think about where are your contacts today, if you're an individual person, which I think Nimble is a great personal CRM, and everybody should have a personal CRM because your network and your brand are your net worth. But also in a business, you have siloed contacts in sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting. And you might have your contacts in, say, QuickBooks. You might have your contacts inside of Office 365 or G Suite or MailChimp or whatever. And what Nimble will do is unify all those into a cohesive whole, and then enrich them with people and company data, and then work back where you work. And I think we all really still live in our email inbox. And so whether you're using G Suite or Office 365, Nimble will come up when you open up an email. And every time you open up an email, there's typically something you need to do, and you don't do it because you have to go to your CRM to do it. And with Nimble, it works with you everywhere you work, and it works for you by automatically building records like I showed before. And so this is my basic workflow that I do, is I build a persona and I share content beyond my business side, because my business persona is like walking into my lobby, and what you're going to see is John in a suit, right? My business persona. But even in my business persona, what I do is I humanize it. And in this particular instance, this is a photograph I took in Kauai when I was hiking. And I absolutely love this picture because my family didn't want to walk up to the top of this muddy hill. And I said, no, I really feel like there's something there. And it was like raining and just cloudy. And all of a sudden we got to the top of the hill, and it opened up into blue sky, and that rainbow was there, and this rainbow will be with me the rest of my life. So I share a little bit of my humanity with other people, which helps people to connect with me. And then I share content to inspire and educate others about how I might help them become better, smarter, faster. And then people engage with me. Here's another example. There is this lady, Tiffany Bova, used to be the CRM analyst at Gartner. Now she's a spokesperson for Benioff at Salesforce. And she was saying that CRM isn't about command and control. It's about empowering customer-facing business team members. And somebody said, bullshit, it is about command and control. A winner sales manager is going to loosen the grip. And isn't this what John has been building and teaching with Nimble? And so Nimble will automatically listen to the signals that people say about you, the team, or the brand, and then automatically surface them on your Today page so that you could then go ahead and engage with Nimble told me about that. So I was able to then take this person and build a record for them where I learned that this person is not only in charge of CRM and data at Disney, but also I was able to build a record for him. Nimble will give you the email for somebody if you give Nimble first name, last name, company, domain name. So I was able to respond more effectively in the stream here, but then take his record, build it, and then send him an email to thank him. And then that email then shifted to a LinkedIn connection and conversation where I learned that his daughter and him live in my town, and his daughter goes to school with my daughter. So I invited him for breakfast because I think you need to take digital relationships into human face-to-face. And then he basically turned out to be an evangelist for Nimble. But the thing is that I think that I was able to do all of this because Nimble then works on all the places that I'm engaging across everywhere I'm working. And that's the basic sort of formula for you to use on a personal basis or on a business basis, even if you're currently using a CRM at the office, because you can take your network with you to work. And so if I'm engaging with Ken Krogh and essentially I need to build a record in Salesforce, I could easily do that within Nimble, and I could even get his contact info, and anything I do in Nimble will be bidirectionally synchronized back into Salesforce, so I can prospect better, smarter, faster, even if Nimble isn't my CRM. It's the engagement tool that I use, because I think what makes Nimble so great is that it's really a good contact manager, and that's the heart of the best CRM. Is something that empowers a customer-facing business team member, and that's why we basically built something that's not only a market-leading CRM but also delivers sales intelligence, so you don't have to go out and buy sales data. We enrich that for you, and then engagement tools, so I could then outreach, etc. And so essentially, if I wanted to then take the people that I'm building relationships across social media and segment them into a group, I can segment them based off the data that we've enriched it with. And then I could take that group of people and send them a templated one-to-one message to follow up with them. That email then comes from my email to their email, and then I'll get signals on the opens and clicks. And so this is the sort of basic workflow of build your shop window, like Tim said, share content to inspire and educate other people, engage with those, reel them in and build records, engage with them, not with the intent to sell them, but to serve them, because service is the new sales. And if you rinse and repeat that, you're going to have more connections than you could ever imagine, and you're going to help more people grow than you've ever imagined, and you will achieve the dreams of your lifetime. And so with that, that ends the demo section. Tim, could you share with them any special offer that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so if you buy my book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, from the Kogan page website, they will give you 20% off if you use the promo code SMK20.
Okay, and for those that have not already signed up for Nimble, there's a 30-day trial there for that link there. And if you do decide to sign up for Nimble, we'll give you 40% off your first 3 months using the code John40. Ideally, we would be offering our existing users something. And Michaela, if you can come up with something for our existing users, I think it's always nice to thank our existing customers with something as well. And with that, let's go ahead and do some questions. So let me find the question doc here. Let's see. Okay, so if you haven't asked the question, now is a really good time to do so.
So Funky, it's always best to write it in the first person. So it's about I did this. I love this. I transformed this, rather than Tim Hughes is a energetic and tenacious salesperson.
Okay, so that was the question. Is it always best to write in the first or third person?
Yes.
You want to keep going, Tim?
Yes. So Debbie, the term brand, can we mix that and find a new term? Brand sounds so unapproachable. Yes, it does. Which is why I was kind of saying shop window. It's I find personal brand a term which kind of it seems just too high. You can't achieve it. It's more about, this at the end of the day, it's about you, and people understanding you, and ultimately turning a very flat, one-dimensional social network into a three-dimensional view of vision of you.
So Tim, I have some fairly strong feelings about brand and network that I'd like to share.
Yeah.
I think that if you go back 100 years, we all lived in a small town, and our reputation was made on the promises that we made and the experience that we delivered. And that today, social media, I think, is transforming the world into a small village and bringing us back to the small town. And I think that reputation might be something to consider, because ultimately your brand is, when you talk about brand, it feels like you're talking about a company, but your reputation is really kind of humanized and translatable. Just an idea.
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree, John.
Yep.
Yes, I probably got a bit overexcited. What's the name of the app? Yes, the app's called Flipboard. It's on the App Store. It's free. Glenn, when you say you Googled yourself to learn a good byline, I tried that, and all I see is my accomplishments, nothing that describes who I am. Did you try searching for something more specific, not just your name? Well, I would start with your name, because you're in effect in control of what Google serves. I mean, John, you're a great example of you Googled your stuff, but you know that Google is going to serve that stuff up, or you can guess it can. If you LinkedIn, Google loves LinkedIn because it's full of content. It's got millions and millions of pages of content. So when you Google yourself, you will the LinkedIn profile will be always, if not, and unless you're a Hollywood film star, it will probably be the first thing that will be seen.
Let's see how Michaela's doing.
Yeah,
Michaela,
yes.
you're rocking it.
Oh boy.
Jenna, what is the address for finding curated content? Well, there's a number of places you can find curated content. Flipboard is one of the apps that I suggested. There's a lot of other products like that. Twitter is another great place for finding content. Sorry, John.
BuzzSumo is a pretty good one.
Yeah, BuzzSumo. Plenty of products. Debbie, reputation marketing sounds promising, doesn't it? Using reputation marketing instead of the word brand. Yes, it does. Yes. It is about your reputation. I'm going to make a note of that. Thank you, Debbie. Pierre, how would you go about finding agents for a new company, water sports products? John, you're the ace. You've got a great story of you going to that Microsoft conference.
Yeah. So in regards to finding people to represent your products, I think that you want to find somebody who's already a trusted advisor of your products and services, a trusted advisor to the prospects that you'd be selling your products and services to. And that's actually how I built 2 global companies, is identifying the trusted advisor of my prospect. And in both cases, it was, well, in Goldmine days, it was the person who sold them the network, because I had a networkable business program that run on top. And today, it's Timothy. Honestly, it's people like you, because you are the trusted advisor of my prospect, and I've essentially identified the top thought leaders in social sales and marketing and built relationships with them by sharing their content and engaging with them and turning them into users and evangelists. So if you think about a small business, who are their trusted advisors? Accountants and lawyers and consultants, etc. So there's already somebody who is already touching the channels that you would want to sell through, and that's where I'd start.
Yeah, and working out who your ideal customer is. It may be a particular type of person, and you can find them and look for them on social media.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick up Glenn's question, John?
Sure. So 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, LinkedIn gave me their public and private APIs, and we had full integration across messages, notifications, email lookup, synchronization of contacts, etc. But now with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, they want to sell you a tool, so we don't have integrations. And you need to tell Nimble that you're on the page. So if I highlight the name, it'll bring up the record or build a record, but that's just a string. If you want to do that a little bit more effectively, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick on somebody here. So essentially, if I wanted to build a record for a person using our plugin, then I could go ahead and essentially you go to contact info, and that gives you the LinkedIn URL. And if you do that, then Nimble will go ahead and build the record for that person like that. And so you could either use the LinkedIn URL, you could use the string of the name. If you're on a record like this, you could use any of these unique identifiers. Essentially, give Nimble a unique identifier, and it'll build a record for somebody. You could do that literally on a business page. So if I'm reading an article and I want to build a record for this person, I highlight their name, and then Nimble will go ahead and make suggestions. Once you say yes to those suggestions, then it'll go ahead and build a record for that person like that. If I want to add that contact to Nimble, I can do it like that. If I want their email, you give Nimble first name, last name, company, domain name, and it'll go ahead and give you all the contact info. And I just built a record for somebody off a Forbes article, which was just a string in literally 3 seconds and 4 clicks.
Love it. The next question is Lavella. Can you share warnings for possible scammers' profiles?
I think what they're basically saying is that people build profiles to sort of scam you. And I think the answer to that is you feel it when you see it and you know it doesn't feel right. And you just ignore them.
Yeah. You can usually tell when someone's a scammer or not. It just doesn't feel right. Morgan's question. Unfortunately, the maps, I'm not aware of anything of maps now that are able to do that. And that's because of the European GDPR rules. Neat tip on creating a Wikipedia profile. Any concerns about that being an open source platform, or would you potentially affect your branding?
What does that mean?
I'm actually being told by my publisher that because it's an open source platform, it's not a legitimate. When I was writing my books, I wasn't allowed to use and quote Wikipedia. But I think most people have. It's become embedded in society as being a place to go. But you just need to be careful because there's fake news all around.
Yeah, but the thing is that I think that it's really easy to build a Wikipedia site, and it essentially helps with your brand. And so if you have accomplishments, if you've been published, if you've written a book, if you've spoken before, I think that any of us could qualify for a Wikipedia page, and it'll definitely help you with your search.
Yes, I mean it's full of content. So, and Google loves content and will index it.
Okay, I'm just going to rapid fire through these. Can Nimble pull contacts on Constant Contact, Capsule, CRM, etc.? Nimble can bidirectionally synchronize with 200 SaaS business apps. We will bidirectionally synchronize all of them into a cohesive whole. You get up to 2,000 contacts free sync per month. In the first 2 weeks of signing up for Nimble, it's unlimited sync, which means you could use Nimble to pull in contacts from any app, all the apps that you have in your business. Unlimited, hundreds of thousands, it doesn't matter. Once they're unified, then you get free 2,000 changes per month sync built in. So you could use Nimble as your social sales and marketing system or within your social sales and marketing systems, because Nimble is a really awesome SFA engagement tool. So you don't have to necessarily go out and buy Raintree, DiscoverOrg, SalesLoft, Outreach.io, etc. It's all built into Nimble. Just popped in the webinar. Did you say you could stay within Outlook to operate Nimble? Yes. If you add Nimble to Office 365, it's automatically added to Outlook Desktop and Outlook Mobile. And whenever you bring up a contact, it'll bring up the contact if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it'll build the contact. On the profile, it's mentioned that you should not use your title. I mentioned other ways you can create curiosity or gain more attention. Did you say that, Tim, that you shouldn't use your title?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Because, well, the rules for you are slightly different because you're a CEO, and that's important, and you've got accomplishments. Most people, if you put in that you're a sales manager, nobody cares. So what we always recommend that people do is that they put in their why, not their what.
Okay. There it is. Do you think people are completely open to being engaged on LinkedIn if you may not have a strong relationship? Yeah, I want to talk to this for a second. Look, I think that people are interested in anybody who can help them grow. And if you engage with the intent to help somebody grow, and you've done your homework to learn about that person and their company, such that in your outreach, you can clearly say why you're connecting, what's unique about the person you're trying to connect with, and what value you'd like to add, you have a pretty big chance of doing so. But the best thing to do is to walk in somebody's digital footprint and add value to the conversation so that when you do reach out, they already know who you are. And that's what I typically will do, is I'll walk through people's footprint and add value to the conversation. So in the end, they actually reach out to me. But you definitely, people are open, but they're not open to being sold. Nobody wants to be sold.
I totally agree, John.
I recommend Feedly for content. That's great.
Yep,
Thank you.
that's good.
Is there such a thing as too much activity on LinkedIn? Yeah, I think so. I think that on Twitter, you could shout every second and nobody would necessarily hear you. I think on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's more limited. And I think that if I used to think about when I used to do this more often, Twitter every hour, LinkedIn maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and Facebook about the same.
Yeah. It's I wouldn't post a lot on LinkedIn, as you say, depending on the time zones.
Yeah.
But Twitter every hour. Yeah.
People are sharing their dreams and projects. I really think that you should share much more than your business stuff. I see so many people's Instagram and things where they're essentially they just have a bunch of memes up there, or it's a bunch of business stuff. And I think that people don't connect on all that business stuff. I think you need to roll up your sleeves, open up your shirt, and show your heart and soul. And I think in doing so, that's how people really connect. And here's somebody dancing an Irish jig in Dingle. And
I totally agree, John.
If you've never been to a pub in Ireland or to Dingle, you definitely need to go, because it's one of the best experiences that you could ever have. So anyways, yes, share your dreams, share your heart,
people
share
buy
yourself. Yeah, people buy from people they like, know, and trust, and they like and know you and trust you when they're connected to you. When you get somebody's email using Prospector, how do you reach out to them? First via email or social media? Typically what I like to do is I like to do the soft approach first, like I shared with you before. And if you think about the way that I connected with this person, Theodore Rand, he connected with me by talking about me because I was sharing content that was inspiring and educating to him in and around the areas of his passion. And when I did reach out, it was like he immediately responded. But typically, like if I'm looking at Ken Krogh and I'm reaching out to him, I wouldn't necessarily just cold email him. But if I did, I'd walk in his digital footprint and find an area of commonality and connect on that. As an example, Ken Krogh has 2 sons who are Eagle Scouts. And I don't know if anybody out there is an Eagle Scout or a parent of an Eagle Scout, but it's quite a journey and quite a bond. I have 2 sons who are Eagle Scouts. I was an assistant scoutmaster for 8 years. And when I shared that with Ken, it immediately built trust. And that is one way to do that. But typically, I don't just blast an email to anybody, but if I do, it's highly personalized and it is relevant and authentic, and I offer value and a reason to connect, and typically they do. But if what's going to happen is they're going to Google you if they consider connecting with you. So you have had to build your brand and persona and make sure it aligns with the persona that you're reaching out with, if all that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually write in my social selling book, John, about how you and I met, which is
really?
you spent the first 15 minutes on a call showing me your vinyl records.
I'm actually sitting in my office with my German belt-driven turntable right now, looking at my Tannoy studio monitor speakers that I love to crank up the music.
You showed me your Live in Leeds, the Who album.
Yeah, that's a classic. Okay.
Anyway,
when not using your title makes it difficult to be located by recruiters. I don't disagree, Morgan.
So there's two things about your title. So there's two titles in effect on LinkedIn. One is your summary title at the top. The other is the title of your job. They're different things. If you're looking for a job, yes, maybe don't forget that once you actually set your title, it's not set in stone. You may want to change your title because you may want to experiment with it. But we had somebody that was, we were training somebody and they said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So we went onto LinkedIn and there are 1 million people who are serial entrepreneurs. It doesn't make you stand out. There are 250,000 people who are best-selling authors. Again, being a best-selling author doesn't make you stand out. There are, I think it's about 1 million people who say that they are thought leaders. This is about you standing out and about you being different. And most recruiters expect you to have an understanding of your digital capability in the world today.
Okay.
Is there any training for Nimble available?
There's a webinar there. There was a question, does Nimble work with HubSpot CRM? Nimble actually works with any program because Nimble can basically come up in any program, but we do bidirectionally synchronize with HubSpot CRM. But like I said before, if you turn Nimble on any page, Nimble will automatically build a record or bring up a record. You can even turn it on a company's website. So training for Nimble, go to nimble.com company webinars. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn for prospecting, like executives. It's a great place to get more contacts. Please share. Was there a question? Oh, is there a group? What was the question?
I think in terms of groups, it's just something you need to follow. If you're looking for a great group on LinkedIn, funnily enough, it's actually so there's a guy based in Chicago, I think, called Andy Foote, which is F-O-O-T-E. He also has a LinkedIn group on Facebook. Bren Tillman, who has, I don't know if you're still on, Bren. She's somebody else is what you're worth connecting with and talking to. She's a great resource for stuff around social selling.
And you know what I love about Bren is, besides her beautiful smile, is her processes. Bren is a process queen. And if you want to learn processes around doing this, she's good at that. Then we have a code for Tim's book is right there.
So the promo code is SMK20. So that's Sierra Mike Kilo 20. And you need to purchase it from the Kogan Page website, which is koganpage.com, KOGANPAGE.com.
Okay.
Thank you, Sharon.
So I think that's it then. Targeted prospects connections to find additional target clients and research and work groups they're in. Okay, I think that's concept, right? He's saying targeting a prospect's connections to find additional ones. Yeah, you know, as a kid, I used to do a lot of scrambling in rivers, if you will. In fact, I took my family during this COVID crisis up to one of the waterfalls and creeks that I often went to as a young boy. And yes, this is going someplace. So this is the waterfall that I took them to. And if you follow this creek down, it gets to the point where you can only go through down the canyon by jumping on these little hogweeds that are growing in the river. And so what I like to do is I like to network off of other people's networks. And so I will go and see who they're connecting and communicating with, etc. And in places like Twitter and other places like that, it's really easy to do that. And so people connect to people like themselves. And so if I wanted to, expand and grow my network, I could easily do that by connecting off of, by basically just jumping from one rock to the other in order to build and grow my network. And it's really quite easy to do because Nimble will actually import Twitter lists. So if I wanted to, go and basically, do you have any Twitter lists on your account, Tim?
Yes.
So if I wanted to go find people that were that you have already curated, I could import that Twitter list into Nimble, and then once that list is imported, I could then go ahead and begin to engage with them. And so I think that that's really a good point, is that you can basically build connections off of other people's connections in order to expand your network. And with that, I think that we're done. And I'd like to just close out by asking you all to connect with us, because we're here to help you grow. We'd like to learn more about you. So please do connect with us on whatever channel is effective for you. And Tim, why don't you close us out with some parting thoughts?
Thank you, John. It's been for me, it's been excellent. I've loved all the questions. Some of the things that I've got and learned is about the importance of building networks, and also I love what you're talking about in terms of the attitude about it's not about actually trying to sell stuff. It's actually about trying to help people.
Amen to that. And there's a final question. Are we going to be sharing the deck and the video? And the answer to that is a big yes. Anybody that is subscribed to the webinar will be getting a copy of it. And yes. And with that, please be safe. Cherish the people around you. The best gift you can give anyone in this world is your presence. So when you are with another human being, put your phone down, look them in the eye, and gift them the best gift of all is your smile and your presence. Good luck and good selling. Thank you so much for coming. Adios, amigos.
Thank you, everybody.